Good.
I like that.
All right. All right, it's 4:15. We'll call the meeting to order. And I believe everyone is present, and I will ask Commissioner Gallagher to lead us in prayer.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we just are so thankful for this time that we have together to come to serve this county. We're thankful, Father, for this weather that we're having, for the rain that has nourished the earth. Heavenly Father, we just pray that you might be with us as we do great things this afternoon, that you might continue to bless this county, that you be with those who are dealing with issues, that you might lift them up and strengthen them as only you can. Heavenly Father, we just pray that you would grant each of us the wisdom to always look to thee for guidance and direction in everything that we do and say. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. All right. First item is approval of the minutes from the May 25th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second. All right. Motion is second. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. On to old business. We didn't actually get anything labeled on the agenda, but does anybody have any old business that we may have failed to put on? All right. Hearing none, we're on to new business. And the first item is our solid waste folks.
And with the fiscal year coming to a close, we're compiling information for quarterly and yearly reports. We have moved into our new portable offices next door to the old office. So last week we've been busy just trying to get organized a little bit. We've got a lot more room and it's pretty nice over there. So we do hope you guys come by, just take a peek, come by and visit for a few minutes. The old office is now a much needed break room for the guys with air conditioning and heating instead of staying out there in the old shop with the potbelly stove. Duck River cleanup is scheduled for this Saturday, the 26th, and we will be participating in that event. Everyone is invited to come out and participate. A lot of the county residents enjoy being on the Duck River for family outings, fishing, canoeing, and just enjoying the scenery. So let's keep it clean for future generations. We would like to thank county commissioners for their commitment to our solid waste program. We will put new compactors in at the last 3 centers sometime this summer. And the new compactors at centers now have been a huge improvement for being more cost efficient, heavier loads, fewer trips to the landfill, and the changes to the tire program will be a great help also, which starts 1st of July. We have just completed our yearly state mandated suits training for all of our center attendants. And we've been fortunate because of the good job that the attendants do not to have any type of major violations. The new compactors have also helped keep the centers much cleaner. I think all of you would agree that when you've been out there. We wish everyone a safe and happy 4th, and the monthly report is attached. And we did $14,711.54 in recycling revenue. That tonnage was 134.4 tons. Landfill disposal costs $30,446.71 and 919.84 on the tons. Any questions?
Diane, and you may have talked about this, cameras at the convenience centers. Have we ever talked about that?
We are thinking about putting cameras up, not necessarily for any type of thievery or anything like that, but in case accidents were to happen or some other thing, and I may be able to get part of that done through our litter grant. That's something that we are checking on, though.
I highly encourage
Yes.
that.
I think it would be beneficial, really. Right. I agree.
We got the safety grant from the insurance company last year. That is part of, we can apply for that too, for the safety grant. So that's what I think we're gonna be looking at also. The next time it goes around, this time, because we can get some of that funded also.
Good.
Quick question. Have you been tracking yearly the amount of garbage that's been picked up in the cleanup of the Duck River each year? I was just amazed at all the people who are kayaking, like at the Men's Bridge. It is full.
And they put in last year, I think if I remember, maybe it was 2.5 tons or 3.5 tons. I can't remember for sure, Mr. Geller, but we do try and weigh it when it comes in.
Right.
We've got 2 cans that we leave out there, 2 20-yard cans that we'll place. And then the canoers and the individuals that go out and pick it up on their pickup trucks come back. And then once we take it to the landfill, then we'll get a weigh ticket back.
I know there's been efforts made to make people more aware and being more considerate in terms of throwing garbage in the Duck River.
And you would be surprised at the furniture that they hauled in. There were concrete blocks, like somebody just took the whole foundation and dumped it out. And they brought that in last year.
There was a hot tub.
Yes, that's true. We have had just about everything you could think of. But yeah, we do try and track that. Of course, the Duck River Agency, was.
I just wondered if it was getting worse or getting better.
I think basically over the last couple of years, of course, last year we didn't have it, but the 2 years before that, it was a little bit less than I think the year before. So maybe they're getting a little bit better.
Questions? Thank you for your report. Next is HR, and I think you have a handout.
Yes, you all should have your report in the packet that was presented to you all. The numbers as far as employee data in regards to new hires, terminations, resignations, retirements are reflective of May. We did have 9 total new hires across the county, 8 of those being full-time, 1 part-time. Terminations, there were only 2, 1 full-time, 1 part-time. Resignations totaled 6, 5 were full-time. 1 part-time with no retirements, and 3 full-time rehires. The snapshot on our job postings are paramedic, A&T, and corrections officer positions. We leave those on the website and take ongoing applications for those. The social counselor has not been filled yet. We're still pushing that one for the health department. The veterans officer, office assistant for the veterans department. There has been a job offer presented, and that individual will start July 12th through training. They'll start with their training, so they're effective July 12th. Juvenile detention officer has also been filled. The probation office assistant, you all don't have reflected because, again, this is a snapshot, so I just went in and pulled some new data. Some things have even occurred since I did the report. So the probation office, there was an assistant court liaison. It is currently being offered. We had 20 total applications for that. Groundskeeper, we've received 3 applications, but there's not been an offer yet. There was a part-time van driver, alternate van driver for the Veterans Department. We received 5 applications. There's been an offer, and that person will start the end of this month. And then firefighter, we've reposted, but they are going through some interview process right now, and they had a total of 13 applications received the first round. You all can always see what's going on in my department as far as ongoing projects. The ones I'll pull out for conversation would involve the planning of the newly formed quarterly safety committee meeting. I have scheduled a speaker to come and talk to the committee, and we're establishing a date for that, but the topic will be cybersecurity. So we're going to move forward with that. I have been working with departments and I'm trying to do blast emails, and I will get IT, who's so helpful to me on getting information communicated to our employees, but I am trying to get coordinated employee opportunities to have discussions on the state retirement plan. Currently, the county offers the TCRS, which is the pension plan for retirement, but you all approved through finance back in 2020 the ability to add a 401k or 457. So there's 2 in-person meetings scheduled for July 8th and July 14th. And then they will also be doing virtual online meetings if the employees prefer to do that and sign up. So we're really excited about rolling that out and giving our employees different avenues in addition to TCRS for them to plan for their future. So we're working on that. I am still continuing to work on the CDL, newly adopted federal requirements for reporting in the Department of Transportation website, which is Clearinghouse. I've had some opportunity to work closely with the schools, HR, because they also hire CDL drivers, and there's been some partnership with the highway department for the county CDLs. Obviously, we're all governed under the same law, so we kind of need to partner together and make sure that we're consistent and that we're all on the same page. So I really appreciate Neil's help on that. We met with him a couple of weeks ago, and that was really helpful, and we're trying to learn and grow together on what the expectations are, and if there's an opportunity now that it's a reality to maybe federally, legally go back and make some much needed changes on the practicality of some of what they're expecting. Tomorrow we actually have a tour for a prep program, which is a 2-week Tennessee local rehabilitation office is doing a 2-week summer camp prep program for their clients for job opportunities. And so the county, they asked us to be a partner in that with them, and they're going to bring some of their clients, and we're going to do a tour of several of the county departments. It's going to start with the mayor having a conversation about his position in county government, and they wanted me to speak some to the HR component of that, and then we're going to go around and talk to some of the fees offices and the judicial offices and really give them a good briefing on what county government and services provide for them. So that's taken a lot of my time working with them this past month, and I'm continuing to work on contract updates that are needed for a couple of departments. That's it.
Questions?
I noticed we had the 5 full-time resign. They didn't all come from the same place, I hope.
No, they did not. They did not come from the same place. And
Okay.
I will say, to speak to what Diane just said about relocating office space for sanitation department and highway department, and creating a break room out there, you know, those types, it's always say, HR loves things like that because it helps with morale and retaining employees. So kudos to Mr. Clanton and Ms. Forbes for making that happen. So it's a good thing.
We just continue to evolve our HR program. That was something that certainly was an interest to me, but when Shannon came across with her knowledge and background, it's really allowed us to lean in on this. I think the department heads are now starting to more and more see the value of a strong HR department to assist them. The HR department does not hire their people for them. Our HR structure ensures that we're meeting all the national standards and best practices and to ensure that we're in compliance with all the federal and state local requirements that we have. But that hiring component is still at the department with the department heads there. So I want to be clear about that. I know that historically speaking, that's where you get a little nervous when you're thinking, oh, somebody else is deciding who's going to work for me. But that's not what this model is. What this model is trying to do is, one, we want professional development for our leadership folks to understand what's the national standards and best practices. And then we want to be a resource of their conscience in setting that employee up for success in their organization, not picking that employee for them. So I want to be clear about that.
And I appreciate Mayor Graham's opportunity to do that because it is a new trend in HR to be seen as a support role. I think when it came onto the scene in the late 70s, early 80s, it was a very different approach. And so there's a lot of negative connotation when you think about HR, but it's really what you build and what you want for your organization. And so it's exciting to be part of a process where it's seen as a support mechanism because it shouldn't be threatening.
Is there an HR association
Yes.
in Bedford County?
Yes, there is
Do
a,
you attend that?
yes, ma'am.
Should,
Now,
and I guess my next question is, should Neil,
I've already given him the contact information
Awesome.
for that to
Okay.
the local level, the state level, and there's a national organization.
awesome.
But I offered those to him as they were offered to me when I first started getting into HR. Now, the local chapter has not met in recent months because of COVID, but I'm going to reach back out to them. They're on my calendar list to reach out to find out when they're going to start. And that's not just public sector, the local, it's
Right.
public and private. And usually there's a sponsorship each month. We used to meet monthly on a Wednesday. And whomever the organization, we would kind of rotate who was going to sponsor, if it was going to be at their organization, and they were going to organize the lunch and the guest speaker. And so there's a lot of good information and networking that's passed.
I know Neil hit the ground running, and he's probably got more than he can say grace over, but I'm grateful that they're communicating
But
already.
the contacts, both, I mean, education could make it,
Absolutely, absolutely.
not only us, but that's awesome.
Shannon has been a great leader in that department. We appreciate the work she does to help us.
Yes, we're stronger together, that's for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Up next is archives.
Well, we've been working this month on, more permanent records out of the attic. And I'm finding a lot of interesting, previous judges, mayors like Judge Farrer, all the way back, that far back. And, so we're working those out. But in the meantime, I went back to the, gym and got the rest of what, they really were not records in the old gym. They were the, old covers where Johnny Reed had his books rebound, but they kept the covers. And so they look like official records. And, but they were the historic covers. So I didn't have time to talk to Johnny about what he really wanted to do with them. So I just moved them into the record center for temporary storage and got those cared for. And, so come July 1st, we'll get ready and get, POs for some of the other movers again and start moving the rest of the records that we need from all over, whether they're spay and neuter clinic or the workhouse and so forth. So we're still working on those. We had I thoroughly enjoyed working with the second graders that came for a tour. That was great. I enjoyed working with John. He added things that I wasn't thinking about, like neat images in the portrait of the Tennesseans and so forth. So, but that was really a great experience. We used to do those tours otherwise for the young people to get them interested in not only the courthouse and what's happening, but a little history as well. So we enjoyed doing all those things. We still working on the record center. Rose, before she went on vacation, was able to clean the floors that were the worst. And so now I'm going to go back and add some more shelving where she cleaned those floors, rather than put shelving up and then have dirty floors. And so we're moving forward with that. So, any questions?
You have air conditioning?
Well, half. One unit's working, one's not.
It's in the system to be fixed, correct?
I'm sorry.
You put in a work order for it to be fixed,
Yes.
though, right? Yes. Any other questions for archives?
Oh, one more
Sure.
thing, Rose, while we were at it, there are electrical circuits that are not functioning. She was gonna get the electrician she works with to sort those out. It was, there's a short in one of the circuits.
And don't forget to get that tree cut down.
Right.
It's on the
It's growing in the foundation.
south side. I can't believe it hadn't screwed up the foundation. It's on the side of US Bank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we'll get that.
There's some odd signage too, way over.
There is some odd signage.
And I don't know what that is or where it should go.
I was going to tell Commissioner Smith, to answer your question more specifically, the resignations were fire, IT, EMS, highway, and juvenile detention. You're welcome. Sorry, I thought you were finished.
So we thank you for all your good work there. And really, one of the positive things that come out of the court system, moving out of the courthouse, it really has given us the opportunity to set the courthouse up in a way to be much more user-friendly and get back to some of those traditional things of people coming to the courthouse, seeking knowledge, looking at history. It's been really something that I really didn't have the appreciation for until I was in this role. That through the archives folks, whenever people are reaching out to us about different things, they really have the ability to lay in some interesting facts around the topics and the projects that we're actually looking at a lot of time out in the office. So we're certainly grateful for those. Up next is architects, and he's not here tonight, but I'll tell you this. As we're no exception to the rule that everything is coming in twice the price. And so we're trying to figure out how to make sure that we're at market value and ideally below market value so that we drive on with our project. But we are having to take a look at a couple of things to see what we can do to bring it down because, again, we're seeing the very same thing that we're hearing all over the system about. This is you know, it's fortunate where it's exciting that we have funds that we've never really had, if that's the way to say it. But then in return, costs are so expensive right now. It's just unbelievable what all those things are costing. So we'll continue to work with that, and we'll keep you updated on the status of our projects. Up next is the monthly reports.
Hey, you've got a copy of your monthly report. I wanted to just county, and you can see that we've collected 95% of our revenues today. This is as of the end of May. The next page, we have spent 82% of our budget, so we have collected more on the budget than we have actually spent as far as the budget. Page 4 is the drug fund. The collected percentage is 31%, expended 21%. That's very little activity in that fund. It's just from drug fines. And we haven't used any of it this year, very little of it this year. Fund 131 is the highway. We've collected 98% of the revenue, and we've spent 90% of the expenditures. Fund 141 is general purpose school. We've collected 91% of the revenues, and we've spent 76% of the expenditures, but we have 4 payrolls that have hit in June, so that percentage is going to go up when you see the next report. And it's the same is true of 142. We've got 37% of the revenue, 39% of the expenditures, but this is based on the federal grants that we get. 143 is child nutrition. We've collected 91%. We've spent 72%. Also, that's affected by the pay in June. 146, we've collected 54%. 59% has been expended. 151 is debt service. We've collected 116%, so we're above the budget, and we've spent 97%. And that's pretty standard because that's debt payments, and they're scheduled, and there's probably no debt payments scheduled in June. So that number is probably not going to change on the expenditure side. The rest of these are your capital projects funds, and you can see that it says 100% collected and 88% on the first one is the county capital projects. The second one's educational, that has not changed. And the last one is the courthouse capital projects. We've collected 100% of the revenue, and we've spent 49% of the expenditures. Now, some of that will those capital projects will carry over to the next year. Okay, moving on to the analysis of property tax collections. Page 1, we have collected $285,000 ahead of the same time last year. In prior year collections, we've collected $369,000 more than the same time last year. Page 2, you'll see clerk and master's collections are down $67,000 from last year. And part of the reason that happens is it's collected in the trustee's office, so it doesn't get as much. Sales tax collections are $1.8 million above the same time last year. And the mineral severance tax is down because he has a June payment that will come in, and that'll even out.
Robert, one question I asked for you. On our sales tax collections 40210, we're up 1.8. Are you through March or April?
Yes. 2 months behind.
Yeah.
Okay, the next report is juvenile detention. We're projecting a juvenile detention. We're projecting a loss of $192,000. That should be in parentheses, I believe. Instead of it's in blue, 192, that's a loss. Okay, as far as traffic school, we're projecting a profit of $53,500. And the last report is the analysis of various expenditures. 91% is the average, and anything above that is in red. And if you see something in red that goes over 100%, that'll be in our cleanup amendment to correct that. So if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Can I ask, on the severance tax, on our mineral severance tax,
Yes.
do you think these numbers are down from last year?
Well, it shows like it's down, but he hasn't gotten the June payment in yet. See, it's only paid in quarterly.
It's quarterly, okay.
So we've got 3 quarters in there comparing to 4 quarters in last year.
But we would expect to hit projection.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's based on the, like gravel they take out of the quarries. There's a tax for that.
Yeah, I was thinking about building construction, might be a little more.
We'll
money in than what we had budgeted.
I got it.
But that goes direct to the state, we never even see it.
Right.
All right, so, any other questions for our regular monthly reports? The numbers look good, so we're excited about that, encouraged, all right. Next is other reports, which is our EMS, he's present, and your report's in front of you. Anything you wanna,
Director Cox is in regrets. He is unable to talk for about a week, so it's been pretty enjoyable at the office. He's actually at the doctor now, so hopefully they'll figure it out. But you have the report. I'll just take note of the fiscal year-to-date calls for service, 7,845. That's already more than we've ever ran. And we still have June's numbers, so very busy, but maintaining. So, yeah, that's where we are, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Response time looks good. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Crews are working extremely hard to clear calls quickly and get back on the road.
any other questions? Thank you for your information, all right. We need a motion to approve the reports.
Motion to approve the reports.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is surplus property.
So you've got 3 items of surplus. One of the last one was in the handout that I laid on your table. And I would like to say that Juan has sold everything he's listed on Gov Deals. And we got a car today that sold, I think, for over $600, and I had to bring a record to get it, but we made some money on it.
Medals up.
Ox property.
And that needs to go to the commission.
So, Robert, I mean, you're pleased with how it's going and doing now?
Yes, he's doing well. And actually, he went through training so he could get an inmate. I think he sold everything out of the gym so far.
Wow.
But he needs to clean out the junk, and he's got to have an inmate to help him do that.
We've got a couple, we've got a couple things we need attention to, and again, he was getting himself his help. I mean, he can't do it by himself either.
No.
So, but he's sold more. I mean, he's certainly outpacing.
So quite a bit.
Sometime I'd like to see a comparison of where we used to be and, you know, whenever you think you got enough
Okay.
data.
Here, this would have been
I don't
the
know if there
past.
was- yeah,
That's the
there was-
past? That looks like a zero.
I don't think there was anything.
Yeah. So-
Anything's a positive.
What about in the workhouse? A lot of that stuff's coming.
I think the sheriff has been down there with a bin getting some of that stuff.
Yeah,
out.
now
I
the
don't know
sheriff's
how
office
much.
did step up and work to get rid of a lot of things that was loose laying around outside. Now, I don't know about what all's inside, but I think the new employee was trying to get focused on the gymnasium stuff so that we can get ready for sale, if that continues to be the wishes of the body.
Okay.
So,
Well, I hadn't been in the
That's right, he
workhouse to fuss,
He
so,
was focusing on that first.
okay, good.
right, and then some things have popped up through work orders where somebody needed a desk or needed to surplus a desk or whatever, and they stepped in as those things are evolving too. So it's coming along really well. I'm pleased. Any other questions on that? So we need a motion to send this to surplus, right? So send it to the commission, I'm sorry.
Everything.
Yes.
All right, got a motion?
So moved.
Second, all right, got that too. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, well, we're on to the exciting stuff. It's time to talk about the proposed 21-22 budget and resolutions.
So you've got the budget, it's in your budget book, and not really that much has changed on the county general side. With everything we talked about is included. You have a list as a front cover sheet that tells you what's in, what's out. If you have any questions about that, I do want to talk about fund balances for a minute. So if you go over to page, let's see, 109 of 110.
Oh.
That's just the county budget. It's
First
it's
tab?
Tab 1.
Okay, that's helpful. All right,
Tab 10.
tab one.
Tab
One,
One.
okay.
You added a
In the
zero.
back of that tab, on page 109, there is a breakdown of fund balance, and we've got the trends there so you can see how it goes. For instance, 17-18, it was $2,000,005. It went to 1.7 to 2019-20, 1.8. 2021, we're estimating 2.79 million. It's on page, one more page.
I was right.
We're doing that
No.
109.
I think. No, it's this one. I'm sorry. That one right there.
Alright.
This road here. I'm talking about road 30. So we are projecting ending the year 21-22 with 230,000 in fund balance. And the reason being that we have the amended, that 2 million will change. We don't know how we're going to end the year because we have to assume everybody spends everything. Also, we will collect more than the budget. That all affects that number. And we will not have that number probably until the end of August when we get the audit in. We'll have an audited number at that point. The next page is your nonprofits, a list of all the nonprofits and what's included in the budget.
What's the number?
It's the last page of tab 1.
Okay, all right.
If I fail to give you the tab number, please let me know. So there's really not any changes since the last meeting. Unless anybody has specific questions, I'll move on to the next one. Okay, tab 2 is the drug control fund. This is funded by drug fines. And if you will go over to just the third page, last page,
Before the yellow.
before the yellow one, you will see the ending fund balances that are projected. We're projecting 24,000 at the end of the next year. After the yellow page is the American Rescue Act, Rescue Plan. That is what we've received. We cannot spend that until we get approval from the state. And we are looking at a strategy to do that. And that's half of the money. We will get another half in a year. But we have to go ahead and put that in the budget.
And we're also getting a lot of oversight, if that's the way to say it. I don't really like it too much, but the comptroller's office is putting out a lot of information about do's and don'ts, particularly at this time. I'm sure they're probably doing it on the education side too. And we certainly don't want to misspend, and that's what they're referring to there. And we're hoping that there's going to be some relaxing of some of the stringency of these funds. It could really help us a little bit. We certainly need to lean in on sewer and water and broadband as a community. So these funds will be used no matter what. But if we could just take a small portion of that and address our capital improvement plan and really help us get ourselves on a strategy, would really make it better for this body, the county government in general, to be able to manage where we're not looking at buying 5 fire trucks at one time in the future and what have you. So keep praying that they'll loosen this up a little bit where there could be some public safety funds spent out of this somewhere on this journey. But right now, all the roads lead to holding on your funds. That's what the comptroller is saying. That's what the County Mayor's Association is saying. And then even talking with Pat Marsh today, the state is even encouraging that. And the state is going to get a bucket of money, just like the counties have been distributing funds. And so if we can be aggressive and progressive in how we're looking at and what we're doing, there may be a real opportunity for us to line up with the state and them drop some funds right behind funds we would drop, say, on broadband or on sewer or some of these other things, which would make our money go a lot further. And so we want to certainly keep that line of communication open as we're looking at those things. And the city of Shelbyville, well, each of the cities also got some funds based on their population as well. It wouldn't be as much as the county was. So it'd be interesting to see over the next several months what might be allowed that they're currently saying no, you can't do.
But you don't have any clear idea in terms of what the timeline is of them setting forth the criteria.
Well, the current criteria that stands, and I feel like I can say this, that you could spend it tomorrow, so to speak, is broadband, sewer, and water. I mean, if you had a $10 million broadband project that this body, the county government had said, this is what we want to do, this is where we want to go, we would have to go through all the hoops and get the approvals and the satisfying everybody. But I would argue that you could spend this money today.
That's about its basic infrastructure you can get.
Exactly. But whenever you start talking about, could we put part of it here and could we split this over here with that? And could we peel off a couple of internal infrastructure things for county government? That's where everybody's trying to figure out how to get a little relief, because every county in the state, I assume, certainly the mayors that are at the Mayor's Association with me are saying, you know, if they could just take a small portion of that and stabilize their capital plans. I mean, everybody's dealing with, we got radio system needs to be replaced. We got ambulances, fire trucks, law enforcement vehicles that have got to be on a better schedule. So we're hoping that they will free up a little of that. And then behind these funds, because Mark in highways was really totally left out of this concept, but there is thought at the federal level, another fund to follow that would lean in specifically on bridges and roads. Is that what you're hearing too? So we're watching. Of course, you know, Mark's been a great partner and neighbor to us, and we'll share with him if you don't have any water to drink or something. But, you know, but hopefully he's gonna see a whole value put to the county regarding roads and bridges, which would be significant, I know, for his department as well.
I would like to mention, we did put in for a bonus for employees because everybody's considered, all county employees, essential workers. And we have to get it approved, but we do have the bonus included in here. It's a net of $1,000 per employee. And
That part-time too.
Yeah, the full-time, part-time, what I refer to, the people that have regular scheduled part-time work with us.
And that will go to them, and we, like I said, we gotta have it approved. It will not be July 1. It will be sometime, hopefully, in July, but we don't know yet. So some people are thinking it's July 1, and that's not the case. It'll just be as soon as we can
We
get it.
got hit with that the other night.
Yeah, and that is permissible under these funds, by the way. There are 2 or 3 other little caveats of things they could do. and not do.
So that's just a one-time bonus pay.
Right, right. And that's why a bonus is the key word here, is that you're not promised that next time. Now, if we can figure out ways to continue to support and prop up other needs, we'll certainly look at doing that. But again, that would come back to this body and ultimately to the commission to endorse that.
And before I get too far away from the general fund, I wanted to mention, Linda brought this up. She asked me about the, some of the decreases. If you'll notice, there's some revenues that drop and there's some expenditures that drop over $1 million. That's because of the grants. It was a grant revenue and a grant expenditure, and they're not there this year. So if you look through your budget, see a significant drop like that, that's what it's about. So I did want to bring that up. Okay, if you go to tab 3, you will see the highway fund. And on page, the very last page will show the ending fund balances. And you'll see it from 2017. The 2017, 18, and 19 are audited numbers. We have an estimate for actually 2021, the year we're in. So we're projecting to end this year at $1.2 million and next year at $683,000. So that's just an estimate. The next page is.
Now, is that drop associated with the fuel tax, or what was the, where you guys on the highway side have lost money out?
Yeah, out of state fuel tax that we get yearly like that. Plus, we're still in the process of replacing equipment and things like it right there. This should be the last year.
Yeah, there's an extra $500,000 for equipment in there. It's added in.
Right, so the explanation, I mean, he didn't just all of a sudden bottom out money.
Any other questions about that one? Okay, debt service, we have to budget to pay our debts. So that's what that is. It's just in and out, sales tax revenue, property tax. And then we have our debt payment schedule. So before the first yellow sheet, which is 404, you can see our fund balance is at 20 million, and that's one reason we have such a good bond rating. But part of that is, some of that is related to schools because it's actually set aside for them because they want to build a new school, and that will lower that quite a bit when we do that. So the next section is 171. That's the jail justice center project. This is what's left of that money. We had 150,000 set aside for the water line, and it's down to 147. We had to take some things out. That is specifically for that water line. Sewer, sorry.
This is the sewer piece that will make the entire property accessible for sewer, for the build outs, for anything that we do there going forward.
Okay, the next one, 177, is the remains of the education capital project. We have 159,000 in there. The following section, 178, is 3 of 3. We have $1 million. We're estimating $1.5 million at the end of the year. We also have some tax money going into that this year to fund some capital projects. We've never had that in the past, so that's going to help us out on some of that. Any questions about those budgets? Okay, section 5 is backup information. This is, section 5 is the E911 budget. I'm getting ahead of myself. They submit their budget and it's on a different format for the state. You don't really have to approve it, but it's just in there for information.
Robert, where is our in-kind? Where is the number on that? What we county-wise give?
Second page, number 5,004.
You see it on the second page? Down under non-operating, 5,004.
You talking about for 911?
For 911?
Okay. What'd you say it was,
5004. 665,000. It's on page 2.
I couldn't find it when I was looking for
50 what?
This is primary, assistant, primary
it.
government
Other local
subsidies.
government
Some
subsidies.
of that page.
Okay, 665.
Number 5.
Okay,
We had a senior moment.
just a moment.
Okay, tab 6, this is backup information. This is the county department, the budget request. Tab 7, I'm just going to rush through these if you want to stop. Tab 7 is a schedule of the insurance of what we have to pay per person.
And again, on this insurance, even though there may be a premium increase, we have a factors built in so the employee does not get any increase in their premium
That's correct.
for the individual plan. So employees,
We have a reserve, and on the school side, we budgeted in extra money for that, because we just got the word just yesterday that it's 4% for the year, so it's 2% starting January of that half of the year.
so, and there has been times in the past when the employee that may have been passed on to the employee, but we have structure in place now, and so it gives us opportunity to absorb that without passing that to the employee. So they'll get their 1% step raises, we'll get the insurance covered, so they're not an indirect expense to them, and then their longevity is in as always, and then their bonus, and so.
Does that include the educational people too?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure, yeah, whatever their structure is, theirs may not be 1%, but yeah, all the,
They don't see it.
We have a reserve, they have it budgeted in, it's a little different
Okay,
how it's
okay,
done,
okay.
but the money's
yeah,
there
their
for
funds,
both.
yeah, their money flows a little different than
Yeah.
ours.
Okay, on tab 8 is salary charts and TCRS rates. The good news is we went from 4.14% as a retirement of what we matched for the employees to 1.6, because we are funded well enough that can do that. That applies to county employees and classified employees of the school system. Tab 9 is the debt requirements. This is just showing you a summary of the debt, and you can see where it's located and how much, principal and interest. Tab 10 is schools. You haven't seen this before, so I'll just kind of run through it. We have the budget for the 141, the general purpose school. It includes an annual step for all employees. Certified employees get a 2.32 state increase. That's spread out among all teachers. The state said 4%, but when you spread it out, it's not 4%. Classified employees includes a $3 increase to each step of the index at a cost of $1.5 million. We have the Safe Schools grant and a FAST grant that are not included. We'll add those in as an amendment. The LEAPS grant and the pre-K grant are included. Land use study, $25,000 is included, and that's the portion that relates to them. We have a section that goes to the roads as well as the county. Bookkeeping liaison of $32,000, that was taken out. It's not, you just need to mark through that. 25% increase is added for the board chairman, and a 2% is added for potential insurance increase, which is what it turned out to be. Okay, child nutrition, the budget includes an annual step. The $3 increase per each step is in there. It's a total of $411,000, 2% added for insurance. School age care is basically the same thing. So that's kind of what's in there. I did want to go through and show you or talk about fund balance a minute. Dr. Garrett asked me this question, that's why I'm addressing this. Because it's a
Where are we?
let me get there. This is it's tab 10. It's 64 pages.
Yeah.
So if you will look at, well, this one's set up just a little bit different, excuse me. If you will look at page 5,
5 of 64.
page 5 of 64, you will see the fund balances. $17, $18, $20 million, I'm just rounding. 18, 19, 13 million, 19, 20, 13 million, 2021, 8 million, estimating next year, ending the year at 2.3 million. Now, I made a comment that I said that this $3 step it costs us $1.5 million. I didn't know how long that will be sustainable, but you can see there's a downward trend in the fund balances, but when we end the year, sometimes that bounces back because they don't spend everything or they get extra money in. So that's kind of a summary of it. Are there any questions on that one?
So, if, I'm saying, to sustain that $3, we'll have to look at it.
You may
Next
you
year,
may
pretty
have to look at it
closely.
again in the following years.
Yeah.
That's
It's
correct.
got to continue,
Right, but I'm just letting you know that this is something you're going to have to consider.
Right.
So would this be considered a contribution from the commission to the,
No, it's part of their budget.
okay, it's their,
That's correct. They don't get contributions, they get tax money.
But the 8 million, this is before you close out. That 8
is
will
correct.
increase some there, which would then automatically make the 2.3 larger, but we don't know how much larger.
That's right.
So this is the worst case scenario.
That's correct. We don't know how to project it because we don't know what's going to be spent. But I would say if it holds true to the course, then we're probably going to come in with spending less than the budget, which goes back to fund balance. We're going to have an increase in revenues, primarily sales tax, property tax. That's going to go back to fund balance. So this number of 2.3 is probably going to increase. I just don't know how much yet until we get the final numbers.
So what's the minimum fund balance that they're required to have? 3%?
They were supposed to have 3%. That was taken out before you see that 2.3 that's up above it. The minimum 3% is 2.1 million, 2.135, and that's calculated based on expenditures, excluding capital projects. Any other questions on that? Any questions?
Could I comment?
Sure.
We really felt it was necessary to get our classified employees, those are employees or janitors or educational assistants, secretaries, those kinds of folks. A lot of them made $8 an hour. We could not fill those positions. We had 15 custodial positions that were not filled. If we're going to take care of our facilities, we need to pay them more. We are competing with the city, we compete with the county, we compete with all these other businesses for employees, so we have to get up. We had LPNs that were making $13,000 a year, so we have to address it. We also applied for a lot of federal money that will allow us a lot of different money in our GP, so we don't intend to have to come back right away because everything that we have been able to apply for, we have applied for $2.5 million to pay for nurses that won't come out of our general purpose budget. So we're trying to, a lot of money, ESSER money, we bought buses, so that will save us money. And this is a question for Robert, as we have trended downward. I have asked that question, make sure that I am correct in that the previous superintendent had understood that we had too much and spent a lot of money on technology. Is that part of what happened?
It contributed to it, but I didn't hear that explanation, but it definitely contributed to it. We did spend a lot on technology. But I also wanted to back up something you said on the salaries. We've got teacher aides that are making $13,000 a year. It's really ridiculous. So they really do need the help. And I think most of them are starting at $12 an hour, basically now after this, because they were starting at $8 and $9 an hour. And it's pretty low.
We did not include bus drivers in case you get questions about that. because a couple of years ago, they did get a significant raise, everyone else didn't. So just in case you get questions about that, some of them were making $18 an hour. They only work 4 hours, but it's much more than the $8 an hour.
Well, I think this is a very smart move to make right here. I think you hit the right target with it. I think very smart what you've done on this.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Well, if you're gonna sustain it, you gotta get it up. Because we're in the training business, things like they go.
Well, the ones who run the schools, really, Dr. Garrett, start with those custodial and office
Yeah.
workers and
They're the heart.
teachers' aides and.
Grounds crew.
Exactly.
Any other questions about 41? Okay, the next section is the child nutrition budget. And on page 1 of 10, it's after the yellow sheet. You know, 1 of 10.
Yeah.
You can see the ending fund balance is there.
Get shoes on.
The child nutrition has been pretty consistent. It's been 1.6, 2.2, 2.1, 2.1. This year, we're projecting 1.5 at the end. It's probably going to be a little bit higher than that. And next year, we're projecting basically $1 million as the ending fund balance. But the significant hit there was because of the salary increase.
Because of what?
The $3, the salary step. Okay, any questions on that one? You'll go to the next yellow page, and it'll be 1 page beyond. This is the school-age care program, which is self-sustaining, just like child nutrition. The only funds going into child nutrition are federal funds. School-age care, they have fees they collect from taking care of the children. And you can see theirs is pretty consistent. It's 144,000, 205, 281, 294, 285. And next year we budgeted 110 that's projected in it. And that is all of the budgets that we have. Okay, I'm going to go through the rest of the tabs just so you know what's there. On tab 11, you've got projections on revenue for the schools. This has the BEP sheet that we get from the state, and that's the number we included in the budget. And there's also a page in there about the TCRS for the teachers, the legacy plan. It's got the rates. Tab 11 is school revenue. I'm sorry, I was in tab 11. Tab 12 is school salary charts and allocations.
Can I stop you 1 second?
Sure.
Back on the BEP money,
Yes.
that's 67,248 are BEP money.
53,801 is our BEP.
Oh, okay, here it is, I'm sorry. Okay.
Now, there is and they've talked about this at the school board, there's a drop in enrollment. They're hoping to get some of that back. So next year, we're in a hold harmless situation. They're not going to cut the funds.
Okay.
If they get the students back, then it will probably go up again.
Okay.
So I think they're working on that with a virtual school.
Yes,
They've got ways of trying to get
We
that.
have applied for the virtual, we lost about 200 kids due to COVID, homeschool, different virtual schools. So we have applied to open our own virtual school to try to get those kids back. And we got word this week that they had a couple of questions. We answered those, so we anticipate being able to get that.
Doesn't the state fund the virtual school as well? Are they putting monies towards that?
It will be funded through the number of students. you
Okay,
have.
okay,
Yeah, just like they're doing in other schools.
okay, perfect.
Robert, I have a question about the salary schedule that's in here. Does it include the 2.32% increase?
It does.
So it's valid. If somebody asks me for this, I
That's
will
correct.
shoot it to them. Okay.
And the one behind it is the one that's for supervisors. You got one for teachers and
Yeah,
principals
yeah,
and one
yeah.
for supervisors. And then you've got salary schedules behind that. And tab 12. It's the very front of that tab. You'll see the salary schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that tab?
So whenever we make these decisions, her body made the decision, the one that, or the state gave the 2.5%. You have that Excel or something and it just ripples through so that everybody is adjusted out
That's
in
correct.
regards to that. This is the updated program.
Okay.
Okay, tab 13 is school insurance. It's pretty similar to what we have as far as the county side. And tab 14 is a copy of policies. There's a financial management policy. We've got our debt policy. Go back to you know where to go to look at them. And other is tab 15, which is where I have the calculation for property tax. And we have a penny, it's rounded to 122,000. Something that you might find interesting is the page after that shows a summary of all the budgets. And you can see what the totals are. So we have total budgets of 126 million as far as appropriations. Now that does not include federal programs under the school because that's a separate pot of money.
Right, this does include education and highways. Whenever you
Yes.
say this is all of us under the 81 Act.
That's everybody.
Right.
And then I threw in a sheet past that about TVA and LUA, because TVA and LUA taxes were dropping. And that's just showing you how we compare to all the other counties.
Is this what they refer to as poll tax or something?
I think that's what, yeah.
It was the meeting that I was in, the county mayors were talking about this, and some value is set on the counted by polls or something to come up with this number, or what?
I always thought it was property like right-of-ways and property around lakes and things like that, or the property lakes occupied, but it could be.
Yeah, I don't know, I'd never heard of it, I had to call Robert and ask him, but we're seeing a decrease as well.
Right.
And that's what they were talking about, that's gonna continue to trend down, is what they're.
That's the latest one we could find, so. Now, while we're on budgets, I wanted to bring in one other thing. I passed out a handout it's called GASB 84, and I need to talk about it for a minute just to let you know what's down the line. GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and they issue all the statements that are the rules that we go by as far as accounting. So, and the comptroller also goes for these same rules. Everybody that's in government, this is the Bible. Well, they've got a new GASB 84 relates to school activity funds. And this is just information, but what they're going to do is they're looking at their material and the money they take in, which we take in several $1 million through school activity funds. It's a material amount. So what they're going to do is look at putting that up, setting that up as a fund as part of the county. And it's called Fund 149. And I've got some highlights. I found this in a webinar just last week. I just heard about it. But it's a special revenue fund, Fund 149, they want to set up. And what they're going to do is take all the revenues and expenditures and restricted funds from the schools and put it on the books of the county schools and the
So
school fund.
so when we're audited,
That's right.
Well, they have audit findings, and if that comes into the audit, that's why I'm telling you, we may have audit findings show up in our audit. So we're going to look at a strategy to help do that.
pressure's not on Dr. Gary.
She didn't even know about this probably until right now, because I
So,
just got,
I mean, we're talking like any revenue that comes in the school,
matter of fact,
athletics.
yes.
Their bookkeepers
Good
work will
Lord.
be.
So if we don't train the bookkeepers, or is it not coming?
Well, we're going to have a strategy. And
Bookkeepers, the
I thought we-
bookkeepers need help.
I thought they eliminated the bookkeeper position.
they did.
32.
Yeah, Robert and I had discussed having someone who worked for us that would train bookkeepers,
Oh,
help
awesome. Yeah.
that part. The
Yeah, I'd like to.
trouble came in with where the person was located. The school board feels like, if it's at the county office, it's a county position. And Robert, correct me if
Well-
I'm wrong, he thinks that, if we have a position, it has to be at the county, so it's little.
Yeah, according to law, if there's any finance position, budgeting position, anything like that, it falls under our authority. So if they have this position, what we were suggesting is we have the person in our office here. They would be paying him. for her. We would supervise them because it's an accounting position. We felt like we need to supervise an accountant. We want them to train the bookkeepers, and we want to help them with their training too. So it would be really a win-win, but they chose not to do that, so that's where that is. But this came in after that. I just got this last week in a webinar, and I didn't realize this was in the works.
Well, I mean, I can see the paranoia that the Board of Education would have about not owning their own accountant. But I see the other point
Well,
where.
that was part of the 81 Act, though, was that it
Yeah,
would
I
go
know.
under one structure.
But it
Well,
is,
there's gotta be a way to work that out, because these bookkeepers need help.
it's benefiting, the position is, they would be on the software of the schools, not our software. But it would benefit those schools more than anything to have this position. And actually, when we've got the auditors were talking to me, and they suggested that we needed some training, so we're looking at setting up some training with the comptroller's office, which we've done in the past, and possibly David Huss, and we've talked briefly about that.
Now, did you actually take it out completely because we
It's
could work
in
through
the
that?
budget, but it's not funded because they didn't approve
Yeah.
the position.
Let us work on that. We'll work through some of that and see with adding this at the time that was talked about, this was not known.
That's right.
So let us revisit that and we can come back.
Yeah, I'm not trying to blindside Dr. Garrett. We didn't know this at the time.
Well, I know the school bookkeepers need all the help they can get. And they do a lot of work for the pay that they get, Dr. Garrett, you know that. But
We've
I
got,
do see the paranoia from the Board of Education standpoint, from your standpoint, Robert. So, but we ought to be able to work together, especially now if we're gonna be held accountable, because we've had perfect audits, we don't wanna not have a perfect audit.
that was the part that bothered me, I should say.
I think with the addition of this, we could go back, figure something out.
But if you go over to this one page that says journal entries, this is basically saying how they're gonna set it up. They're gonna put it in the school funds, in the general purpose school fund. They're gonna incorporate this into it.
And that's gonna bring it under the tax structure.
And but this person would report to the school board,
Well,
like at their meetings and so forth, and
they could, but I mean, they're gonna be reporting to us since they're an accountant.
exactly, but
But our
that's what I'm
concern
trying to do, is
training.
keep them enmeshed in the school board, so the school board always feels like they've got a handle on stuff.
But you know,
But it can be.
but bookkeepers don't report to anybody but the principals.
Yeah. They're not accountants, they're bookkeepers.
They're
That's
not,
right.
bless their hearts,
And the principals are not accountants.
They're not
No.
accountants.
They can't really help them. And I just feel like this is a need that we need to help these people.
Well, Dr. Garrett said they're gonna work.
They should do it.
We'll figure it
they'll figure it out.
But I wanted to show everybody this information because like I said, this just came out.
Robert, when's it go live?
What-
When are they proposing to update DSC before it go live?
Well, they have said that new guidance will be forthcoming. So that's all I know. This actually came from the comptroller's office. This was a webinar and Jerry Durham was the speaker. So he's giving us information, but he doesn't have all the answers yet. So we're just waiting on the guidance. We don't know where we're going. Okay, the next part of the budget, I have a copy of all the resolutions that need to go to the commission with the budget. And this is setting the tax levy, and you can see the breakdown. It's 1.9652. This is the certified rate. We are not increasing taxes. The rate dropped, but the assessment went up, so it's the same money. So that first page, resolution 22-1 is the tax rate. Now, we did break out county capital projects, and we had to have the decimal in there. So we let the decimal fall to that.
All right, just to be clear, the state requires us to, every 4 years, reappraise the property. Every 5 years, we have to reappraise. And the only responsibility we have is to set the tax rate. And if we set the tax rate at this amount, the rate is basically the same as where it was. So
That's
it's
correct.
the same rate,
Same collection.
same collection number. So we can't make any money during this reappraisal. That's what this
That's
budget is
correct.
saying. It's revenue neutral.
Now, I did include some growth money in the budget because it did grow some.
Yeah.
But as far as the tax rate, it collects the same money as the old tax rate.
Okay,
And the state does this calculation, not
No,
Robert, not Chad.
the state doesn't.
Right.
We're just following what the state said, and this isn't something we're making money off of. It's the same thing, just a different number in there.
And if we decide to raise it, then we gotta have a public hearing to raise it. And you've got to tell them, here's the increase on top of this certified rate.
And do we have a public hearing for that scheduled? Has
We have-
anybody
we have-
requested that?
To raise the rate.
Yes. Have you heard anybody?
We weren't proposing,
Okay.
we weren't we didn't, with the budget that y'all have here today would not require an increase.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, it would fall within what the 19652 would provide. So we're not proposing a tax increase. Commissioner.
You may be about to go over this, I don't know, but I've got to ask this question, because this has worried me for over a year. So with the census possibly predicting to be an increase, we know that's gonna cause all the department heads' rates to go up, and I know that our current budget does not include that, so where would that money come from?
It's only for elected
Elected
officials.
officials, it's not department.
And
I always say that.
we did
Okay.
budget that.
Sorry.
Yeah, we do have the revised sheet.
Say it again.
We left in a fund balance to cover that. Okay.
Yes. Now, as far as that amount being certified, we heard it would not be until September that we get the actual amount, until they certify the census, I guess, or
So
whatever.
it would be September when we get that.
Yes. But we've got that's why you had 232,000 of fund balance. That
Okay.
piece of that's going to cover it. And in the handout that I handed out, there's a section that shows the official salaries. It's the last page of that handout.
Second page. Okay.
So is that retroactive,
Yes.
certified in September, but goes back to the
Yes.
Oh. I never think of that. Thank you.
But these salaries are set by the state.
That's correct.
They set the minimum, but you guys would like to increase that by any amount.
Now, one thing that helped also was the decrease in the TCRS rate. So
Right, what we're having to pay there, so it freed up some funds to kind of absorb that, and that was reoccurring costs, right? So
So
that,
what's our benefit to reaching over 50,000 population?
We pay Chad more.
I know, that's all and him and some of those, I mean, so what?
And you.
You get into grant
Grant
opportunities.
The grants are
Yeah, I would-
higher.
When your population's a certain, you get more grant money opportunities.
Grant funding, you're eligible for more grant funding money, you're
Correct.
also eligible instead of having an 80-20 split. it can
You
be a
better be
90-10,
starting to write.
it can be
That's
that fast.
well, we don't have any, I mean, you don't have any control of that at the local level. I mean, that's set by the minimums at the state, minimum. So, there you go.
And it changes when population changes.
I know.
So the rate of 1.9652, which is the certified rate from the property assessor's office through the state of Tennessee, the budget that we put before you and that we discussed today these dollars would fund those projects. Now, on the county general side, not speaking to schools or highways, there were things that we left out of the budget. And one of the ones that comes to mind is the sheriff's office was looking at 12 vehicles. We asked to start with the concept, asking this body to consider, let us get the 6 in there and see if these federal funds are going to loosen up where we could pick up the additional vehicles. It would certainly, I speak for myself here, but it would be my intent that we will find the other vehicles for them after we see what these funds are going to do. And so we do have some potential options to be able to go back and pick up the things that we're leaving behind. But for the purpose of getting the tax rate behind us, getting the new year going, and waiting to see what the federal government's going to do with the funds they're pushing to us, we felt like that this was the right approach at this time. Do you agree with that? So do we need a motion to,
Let me just tell you what the other resolutions are. Resolution 22-2 is a summary of all the expenditure accounts by fund. And that's something we have to do every year. 22-3 is the nonprofit resolution, which includes all the nonprofits that are in the budget. 22-4 is additional compensation for certain court clerks. In other words, if you have a court clerk that has 2 courts, then they get 10% more for the second court. And that's what that relates to. 22-5 is the educational incentive for people that go through the COCPP program. 22.6 is federal grants. Basically, this is where they're approved by the state instead of having to go to the commission. 22.7 is the highways resolution to perform work for other entities so that Mark doesn't have to do this every time. And that's all the resolutions, so that budget.
Yeah, so we need, if we're ready, we need a recommendation to send the budget to the commission and the tax rate. Is there a motion to send it as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so now we have a motion. Again, being clear that as presented means we've talked about what's in there and what we've set out, but we have a strategy hopefully to address the things we couldn't do. And then the tax rate would be the certified rate of 1.9652. Everybody understand that? So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? And this is what we'll be sending to a special call meeting of the commission on, what was the date?
29, 7 o'clock.
29th at 7 o'clock.
Now, we do need a short meeting just before that, Finance Committee to approve the year-end budget amendment. So if you could meet at 6:30, if that's okay, we'll have the budget amendment.
But that is separate than the
That is
official
separate.
county commission
That is
meeting
separate.
for the
Be sure
approval of the
everybody
budget.
gets a reminder, because
Alert.
6:30.
Is there any other comments? So we have a motion and a second on the floor for the tax rate of 1.96 as presented, as well as the budgets. All right, all in favor? Is there any opposed? All right, hearing none, it's unanimous of this committee to take to the commission what we've discussed here tonight. Any other business? Does anybody have anything to? All right, what about announcements?
I think we had a good weekend.
We did have a tremendous weekend in
I
Bedford,
think
from Bell
about
Buckle
10,000,
to Uncle Nearest.
a lot of people. They love this community.
Did they have a
love-
count of how many?
I don't know.
You haven't heard?
But they estimated between 8 and 10,000. It felt like 20,000, but I can tell you the impression that people from California and New York, and they just can't believe the lay of this land that we have.
So this is some of the most beautiful country.
It is beautiful, and I
Gotta
talked to,
preserve
like,
it, though.
yeah, but I'm just saying, I talked to a lot of,
Build on it.
there was a lot of investors coming in that I met, that they have put some money in this the concept out there. And they, they sold out that trilogy Saturday, and I fielded a couple flew in from California that wanted it, and she was a little hot.
All
I
right,
didn't get
that's
it.
great information. We'll talk about that on the side.
Okay.
All right, is there any other announcements or anything we need to say? All right, we need a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Oh,
Really?
I got to shut up. Sorry.
Don't get Sylvia.
I know, I knew it was coming.